My talk today is entitled Embracing the Healing Power of Love. Embracing the healing power of love. Which makes it really important for me to tell you about Stephanie and Brian. Stephanie and Brian have been married for about 6 years. And Brian's not a real big going home guy. You know, he graduated from high school, he moved to where he moved to, and he doesn't go back very much. So Stephanie hadn't really met any of his high school friends, but it's his 10-year reunion, and they're all going back. So they go to the reunion, and you know, they're dancing with the friends, and they're eating the food, and they're having the cocktails, and Stephanie can't help but notice that there's one woman who seems to be drinking a lot. Like, you know, maybe should have stopped 2 drinks ago, and she's back at the cocktail table. And she says to Brian, "Do you know her?" And he says, "Oh, yeah, you know, she's my old girlfriend from high school. And when we broke up, I understand she started drinking, and she hasn't stopped since." And she said, "Wow, Brian, whoever would have thought someone could go on celebrating that long?" Love can be a tricky thing. It's an interesting topic. Not just romantic love, but self-love, love between family members, love in friend relationship. It can be kind of a nebulous thing. So I went to my best friend, Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching. It doesn't matter that he passed away 15 years before I was born. He's the guy I go to with my problems. He's my buddy, Ernest Holmes. And of course, as is always the case for me, when I have something I really need to know, Ernest has some fantastic statement that just brings it all to the heart of what I needed to hear. And this is what he had to say. Love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. To the extent that we abandon love, we will believe that it has abandoned us. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing it is the only answer. Through the power of love, we can let go past history and begin again. Love heals, forgives, and makes whole. And for me, that says everything I need to know. But I have 20 minutes to talk, and I'm using every minute of it. So let's break that down and see what it has to tell us about what's going on in our lives about love. Denying love is our only problem. Wow. Could that be so? Could denying love be our only problem? I have a teacher who likes to say that Americans bond through our wounds, that we bond through the places we feel we are broken and damaged. Oh, you're divorced, I'm divorced. We're the same, we understand. Oh, you did not have such a good childhood. I get it. My parents weren't great either. Not true, Mom, if you're watching, you're wonderful. Oh, you lost a job, or you've lived in poverty. Me too. Let's join a support group together. Let's talk, let's bond. And it's wonderful until it's not wonderful. Because what can happen is in the course of sharing our story, sometimes we get so into the story that it becomes a calcified place. It becomes a hard spot where we can't break it loose anymore. And there's no room for creating newness, creating openness. And when that happens, that's when we get stuck. Denying love is our only problem. That calcified place is a spot where we can't no longer make room for love to come in because we think the story's over. We think that it's done and that's just it, and that's the way it was, and that's the way it is, and that's it. But if denying love is the only problem and embracing love is the only answer, and we've got a spot where love can't get in, we're stuck. We're stuck. People don't come to a place like this because we want to live life stuck. We come because there's a part of us that understands that we are expansive beyond even our own comprehension, that there is more room for the soul of who we are in this space than we could ever even conceive of. But a part of us knows. A part of us knows. So we go looking for love. We go looking for love in all the wrong places. At the bar, with friends that might be great, might be a little sketchy. Sometimes a little sketchy is okay, but you want to watch how sketchy it gets. We're not going to find the kind of love we're hungry for at the bottom of a bottle or in somebody else's bed. It's just not going to happen. Because the kind of love we're hungry for is not of this realm. It's not of this plane. It's the divine love, the infinite love. I love the reading Darren picked because it spoke right to the heart of that infinite love. The quote says, love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. We ignore it sometimes. We go looking for love in the easy places instead of working to dissolve that calcification and let love in from the inside out. Let the big love in. Let the big love in. Rumi tells us, if you don't know Rumi, he's a Persian poet many, many centuries ago, and he tells us that our task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find within ourselves all the barriers we have placed against it. It's not that the love isn't there. It's that we're not seeing it. We're ignoring it. We're ignoring it. And truthfully, Marianne Williamson said, we're not held back by the love we didn't receive in our past. We're held back by the love we're not extending in the present. Because that's how we connect with that internal source, that internal force of love that's always within us. Love cannot be destroyed. It's within us. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing love is the only answer. Marianne goes on to say, something amazing happens when we surrender and just love. We melt into another world, a realm within us. The world changes when we change. It softens when we soften. The world loves us when we love the world. As we love more, we call forth more love. And there are two really clear reasons why this is true. See, we want the world to love us first. You know, I'm just going to hang back, see if I can trust the situation. I'm just going to wait for my story to change, and then I will declare, hallelujah, there is love in my life. We don't want to be the ones to change first, but there are two key things that Ernest Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind that explain why we change first. It's the love and the law. He said everything comes down to the love and the law. The love, we've talked about, an infinite, permanent, indwelling source of grace and beauty that we can't destroy. It's always there. It's right there. Can you feel it? When you turn within, can you feel it? The other side of it is the law. I like to call it the energetic rules of the universe, the law. That we are surrounded by this creative medium that accepts the impress of our thoughts and feeds us back a reflection of what we expect. It doesn't give us what we want. Don't you wish it would give us what we want? Wouldn't that be easier? No, though, it doesn't. It reflects back to us who we are. The universe doesn't give us what we want. It gives us who we are. So if we're saying, yeah, no, thank you, I'm going to hold off on love until the world shows me love, are you ever going to get it? No. It could be filled in the hearts of every person in this room, beaming it at me every moment with all the power y'all have in your hearts. And if I am not expecting it, I won't receive a drop. It's like I've set mirrors up all around me, pushing it away. Love cannot be destroyed, but it can be ignored. And to the extent that we abandon love, we feel that it has abandoned us. We feel it. We don't get to experience the truth of it. We want the world to change first, and that's not how it works. Loving, true loving, isn't an action. It's a leap of faith. It's a dive into the abyss, a desperate dive, so needed by our heart. The moment we turn into love is that moment where we say, I cannot survive one more day of this world the way I'm living right now. I would rather fall off the cliff and fall to my death than live one more day without believing that something's going to catch me. It's a leap of faith. It reminds me of this story that I heard from a doctor who was treating a 6-year-old girl who was very, 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 very ill. She needed a blood transfusion, and her type was O negative, which is the most rare type, and they didn't have any at the hospital. But this little girl had a twin brother, and he was there at the hospital, and so the doctor knew what he needed to do was to convince this little guy to give his blood for his sister. Now, he'd worked with children before in this situation, and he knew that there was a good chance this kid was going to be too scared to do it. Think about it, 6 years old, their little arms are so delicate, and those needles are big. It's a scary proposition, but it was important. It was essential. So he talked to this young man, and he explained calmly but seriously that this was a matter of life and death. If his sister didn't get this blood, she wasn't going to make it. She wasn't going to live. And he listened, the little guy listened, and then he got up and he hugged both of his parents and he said goodbye to them, and he very stoically, seriously went with the doctor and allowed them to take his blood. And the doctor didn't think anything of it until he quietly but calmly asked, okay, so when do I die? This little guy thought that he was giving his life to save his sister. He thought they were going to take all of his blood. And in a leap of faith, he did it anyway. He didn't argue. He didn't ask. He didn't even really think about it. He did it. He loved his sister. He wanted her to be okay. That kind of love does not come from the thinking of reciprocity. It does not come from the place of, when you show me, then I'll love you. It comes from that place within. Love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing it is the only answer. Embracing it with a whole heart, with everything we have, diving all the way in. And then we see it reflected back to us. Through love, we can begin again. Through the power of love, we can release past history and begin again. Love heals, forgives, and makes whole. Forgiveness is a big thing in my world right now. I, in a meditation about 5 months ago, heard very clearly, for every slight you forgive, you will lose 1 pound. That's motivating. I mean, weight loss, all right. For every slight I forgive. And I thought, at the time I thought, I'm a really forgiving person. I don't have that much to forgive, I have some weight to lose. I'm not sure that I have as many things to forgive as I have pounds I'd like to release. And so every day, as part of my meditation, I would think, okay, what microaggression toward me have I held on to for who knows how long, and just carried it with me like a rock in my stomach? What do I have in there? And every day for 5 months, I have found one. I work through and I process and I take it out mentally and I drop it and I say, I'm not saying it's okay that person did that. I'm not saying it's acceptable behavior. I'm saying this is not mine. I'm not carrying it anymore. It's not worth it. And at this point, I have lost 34 pounds. Spots in my heart, how many of those calcifications I have let go of, how much more space there is in me for that same love to make itself known than there was 5 months ago. And if I keep this practice going, how many more spaces for openness will there be 5 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now? I can tell you that the rocks in my stomach are becoming fewer and fewer, and the lightness of my spirit is becoming bigger and bigger. The expansiveness that I know is the promise of me is making itself known in ways I never expected. It's beautiful. Denying love is the only problem. Embracing it is the only answer. Oh, through this love, we release the past history and begin again. Sometimes we don't want to let go of the past history, not because it hurts, but because it was so beautiful. Sometimes we get stuck and attached to what used to be because it was so good. It's that nostalgia thinking that if I could just get back to that, everything will be okay. But it's all perception. Love isn't more or less within us based on what's going on in our life. It's always infinite. It's always there. It's always full. It's always overflowing. We can ignore it, but we can't destroy it. We can't get away from it. This is my favorite story I'm going to share with you. I found it in a letter in Reader's Digest. If you're ever looking for a great place to find stories for talks, go to old Reader's Digest issues. And it was a letter from a young man who was talking about his grandparents. And they'd been married for over 50 years, and they had had a storybook romance. His grandmother said she felt cherished every day of their marriage. That he wooed her, he called her his bride. Married for 50 years, he called her his bride. I love that. Until the Alzheimer's really set in. And less did he remember their story. And eventually, he didn't recognize her at all. And for a woman who had been cherished every day for more than 50 years, this was tough. This was tough. Until she decided to change her perception. One day she was talking to her grandson about when she very first met his grandfather and how delightful that first bloom of love is. That moment of discovering each other and finding just how much your hearts fit. And something clicked for her. And she made a game. And now, every day, it is her goal to be so sweet and so kind to him, even though he doesn't know who she is, that he falls madly in love with her and proposes before bedtime. And she's never missed a day. Every day, she gets to experience that bloom of love again, that feeling of being chosen. That feeling of being accepted right where she is, right for who she is, because she was able to let go of that calcification, of that hard spot. Denying love is the only problem. Embracing love is the only answer. It heals us. It forgives. It makes us whole. It's the truth of who we are. It has always been the truth of who we are. It will always be the truth of who we are. We can ignore it, but we cannot destroy it. And so it is.
So it is.
So let's anchor that in prayer. So we lean into the truth that is always the truth, the one perfect, powerful energy of grace and beauty, of love and wholeness that is infinite mind. We lean into it knowing that its infinitude is our infinitude, that its grace is our grace, that its love is our love. We lean into it knowing that right there at the center of ourselves indwells the very same presence that set the stars in motion, that there is no limit to the beauty and the healing and the wholeness that it instills upon us. I am made in the likeness and image of my Creator, which is infinite in its own nature, creative of its own power, and it has brought me forth. It has brought us forth, whole and perfect and complete, just exactly as we are, and it has implanted within us the love of the entire universe and all time and all space and all places, right at the center of where we are. Love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. And so we lean into it, recognizing that that presence within us always supports and supplies us, always brings us everything that we need. We let fall away right here and right now any worry, any stress, any holding on to something that has been. We let the story fall away. It was never the truth, and it has no power. The only story that we have is the love of the divine within us and how we be that love in every conversation, in every relationship, in everything we say to ourselves in the privacy of our own mind. The only truth of who we are is that love incarnate. So we let fall away any beliefs that we are not enough. We let fall away the idea that the world has to change to show us the love first, and we step firmly, powerfully, intentionally into the role of divinity in action, and we jump over that cliff willingly, gleefully. We dive, knowing that the love and the law are right there to catch us and lift us to heights that we have never imagined. We are powerful, we are beautiful, we are supported, and we are loved. It is good, it is good, it is good. And so it is.
So it is.